pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Welcome to the June 15th meeting of the Town Board. Please silence your phones. Please take note of the exit signs to your back right, back left, and to your front right. We have a couple of things, just housekeeping issues, but before that, we need an approval for the minutes for May 4th. May 4th meeting minutes. Okay, we're not going to do that? All right.
Holly, if you want to, the drafts are up on the website. If you want to hold them to the next meeting.
Let's carry them over.
Some of them,
If you want,
board members have not seen.
if the board members would like, why don't we hold off the meetings of the 4th, 18th, and the 1st, so that you can have time to review them sufficiently. Is that all right? Okay, we don't need a motion for it. Please let the record show that Mike Donnelly is not here. Our attorney, he is at the joint village planning, town planning board for, help me out, the Smith Farm? Smith Farm project. That is a project development which is both in the village of Monroe as well as in the town of Monroe. We have for upcoming meetings and events, and bear with me because I'll skip a few minutes. First, I want to thank everyone for attending for so many people, attending the Wednesday DGEIS public hearing. Roughly 700 people attended. Almost close to 100 people spoke. It lasted for 5.5 hours. It was a good amount of time, but it's obviously not enough time to be able to completely vet, understand some of the most complex issues that this community has ever faced. And I thank my board and the board Kears Joel for the time they spent, but more importantly, the time that all of you spent in giving up your evening up until the early morning hours to have your voices heard. We're pleased that the county's government agency that the think tank that they hired up in Rochester to, I think it's CGA, who they hired. We met with them for a couple of hours the week before last, and the other day prior to the meeting, we met with them and I took them for a tour throughout the areas that are subject to the possible annexation, and as importantly, in many of the people on this board, the area on the other side, this side of 17, which will be undergoing extraordinary stress as the demands for water become more obvious as development on a non-residential basis starts to ensue. That being said, again, we thank you very much, and we will keep you apprised of everything that goes on. Remember, submissions for the DGEIS are required in writing by 12 days, and that would be June 22nd. If you go to the website, you'll see where to direct those emails. I believe they accept emails as well as hard copies. If I'm making any statement which is not consistent, please let me know, and I apologize for it. It's certainly not intentional. Under upcoming meetings for the month of June, we have today, we have obviously the town board meeting. We have the Conservation Committee meeting on the 17th, as well as the ZBA on 7:30. We have the Independence Day fireworks will be held. We are sponsoring that. I know the mayor had asked that if we could increase our contribution this year. And we certainly did. It's July 5th, 2015 is the rain date. And the street fair is also from 6 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. The fireworks begin at dark on July 4th. There has been discussion over at Berry Farm about the Berry Farm, the Faber Farm, and the property over by Berry Road. One of the issues has been the possible conversion of using that property for soccer and multi-use fields. There has been a high degree of support for it, as well as people that feel as though it should be left as is. Mr. John Duffel and Michael Morgante had asked that they be put on the agenda to discuss with the board. We had discussed this a couple of weeks ago, and we know that this is a work in progress. We'll see how it goes, but we certainly want to make sure that we give everybody an opportunity to be heard. This is the first time that the members of United Soccer and their affiliate organizations will be able to come to the board, speak here, as well as the board has agreed that Mr. James Rogers, the former councilman for the town of Monroe, he would have an opportunity to speak. That we'll have to make on a motion according to the rules for hearing, but we'll move on past that point. So, Mr. Duffel, and I'm mispronouncing your name, my apology. If you would come up, and Michael Morgante, if you would please come up and have a seat, and welcome to the Town of Monroe Town Board, and thank you for coming.
So I figured I'd give a little bit of background and history about our organization first. Briefly. Is that okay? Yeah. We're a nonprofit organization that was formed in 1981. We are based wholly of volunteers, and everything from coaches to administrators to just people lining field, moving goals. So it's all based on in our community of taxpayers. We're here to represent kids. We have over 1,500 kids in our program. 1,400 of those 1,500 are from the Monroe Woodbury School District. We have 400 players that play travel soccer, over 1,100 that play recreational soccer, and we are in desperate need of soccer fields. We have very little use, especially in the spring, of any school fields. The rest of the fields that the town provides are too small, including the Lisa Monbascia field. Even though we utilize it heavily every Sunday, it's not large enough, it's not regulation size for older kids. And we feel like it's critical that we need fields somewhere. This year and last year, we used fields in the town of Sloatsburg. About 70% of our older kids' games were conducted on the town of Sloatsburg fields, which personally, as a member of Monroe and someone that's lived here for 13 years, I think it's embarrassing. I feel like as a town we need to do something about that. We discovered the town park on Berry Road about 2 years ago, even though I've lived here for a while and I've spoken to people that lived here even longer. No one even knew that it was there. We realized that it had 2 parking spots there, so we have 75 acres of town park that 2 cars have access to, and it seemed like it was an opportunity to see if we could develop something there. We walked through the park and we found a large clearing about 400 yards from the road, where we walked it off and felt like we could put 2 or 3 soccer fields without disturbing trees or anything else. We do believe that a parking lot would need to be developed, which in my opinion should be developed anyway, just to create more access to the park. Mike here represents not only our club but also an engineering firm and has done a number of studies, preliminary studies on the space, and we feel like with more support we can do a more elaborate study and come up with a more elaborate plan on how we could execute this. The history of what we've done or tried to do for fields, we bid on a property last year in Chester. We've looked at, we got outbid by about $500,000, so we had no chance at it. We've looked at the landfill property. We've looked at the property on the other side of between the Monroe Country Club and Route 17. We have talked to the village about the old first track. We've tried everything. We've been saving money for 20 years to try to find a field somewhere, and there's just nothing around. We're desperate. I don't know how else to say it. We're desperate. We are at a point where we can't add more kids into our program because we don't have field space. It's really that simple. We need to find something somewhere, or we need to start turning kids away. I think that it's not about politics, it's not about profit, it's not about anything other than just trying to provide an environment for them to play in. I wanted to pass it over to Mike at this point. He has a little bit more detail on some of the preliminary work he's done.
Michael Morganti, correct?
Yes, and thank you, Town Board, for the opportunity to speak tonight. John did a great job of giving you an overview and background history of the project. I'm going to kind of jump right into a little bit more of, I think, the technical aspect of it, which is the area itself and how it might be utilized. I actually have a document that I can provide to the board members right now that we can utilize and look at while we're talking, if that might help you guys. Would you care to have it?
If I remember correctly, this is something which you had discussed with me a couple of weeks ago.
So this is just something that I prepared internally at first for the club, just so that we could take a look at what our options were as it related to the property. So you can see this addressed to John Duffel, but obviously we want to share it tonight with the board and the public, so you can see what thoughts we have regarding the property. It's very basic in nature. It's just utilizing Orange County Water Authority information, which is conceptual at best in terms of accuracy of information. What I'd like to point you to at first is the very last page of the document, which shows you an aerial photograph basically of the site. And if you take a look at this aerial photography here, it kind of outlines the features of the property nicely. You can see the open, clear areas, and you can see the wooded areas before you. You can see some of the ponds and some of the drainage features, and even some wetlands. Anything that's in blue that's hatched is considered a wetland in that area. And obviously the red line represents the approximate boundary of the parcel itself. We could look at utilizing some parking up in the front towards the edge of Berry Road. And what you can see is if you walk through the property, as John said earlier, about 400 yards towards the rear of the property, you'll see a large open clearing back there. We feel that we can fit some soccer fields in this area, 2 to 3 soccer fields potentially, where we would only need to do some grading in this area. So we just need to push some soil around to level it in certain areas, reseed it, and essentially with the level areas, we can put some paint down and some goals, and we would have our soccer field. So,
Mr. Morganti, just let me interrupt.
Sure.
Field 2, as you outlined here, are these cars? Do you know what they are? Or?
you know what? I don't know. When this aerial photograph was taken, I don't know what they are. They're not there now. I couldn't zoom in enough to get enough resolution to figure out what they were. They might be. I'm not sure.
No, I don't think they could be clear.
Actually, there's a trail that leads.
It has to work again into the field.
Does it work? I'm not sure because I'm sorry, I interrupted.
So essentially, we're trying, by utilizing this open area here and just essentially pushing some soil around, we're trying to minimize the disturbance that would occur on the site. One thing that would be required, though, as a result of this, is to probably have emergency access to the potential fields on the bottom, not for daily vehicular access, but just in the case that there's an injury or something where an ambulance or someone needs to get down there. We would look to probably, and there's an existing trail that leads from the approximate parking area that exists right now down to those fields. It just would need to be modified or brought up to some standards that would allow an emergency vehicle to access that area. So what you're looking at back here, again with the fields in the open area, is the ability again to push the soil around, level it out, install some fields. This again is so far from the road that you probably wouldn't even know it's there. If we were sitting there playing games on a Sunday or a Saturday or whatever the day might be, The noise, I doubt, would have any influence on any of the neighbors. Again, because of the proximity
Please give
to,
the speaker the same consideration you would like to be given, please.
what I would like to point out is just, again, the heavily wooded area that surrounds us. So I think it would be difficult, if not impossible, to hear the noise from that proximity. And again, the parking area is a different situation, but the field usage itself down in the bottom would lend itself to that. We are minimizing any impacts to wetlands on the site because we're avoiding anything, at least it's shown through the Orange County Water Authority information. But again, what I think is important to propose to the board tonight is that while this is a really nice sketch and conceptual in nature, we'd like to take one step further and get more accurate, detailed information that we can present to the board to see what the true development scope would look like, which would also present to the board some potential costs and other environmental impacts that might occur as a result of the project that we have before you right now. Again, very conceptual in nature, just based on waterfront imagery and outline information. Would be more prudent to take the next step with the board and to collect some more hardcore information. We could use tax map data and possibly Orange County LiDAR topographic data as the next step, and prepare a more accurate, detailed plan that we can reappear before the board so that you guys have a better understanding and possibly of the scope that's involved in the project.
Please, for the record, let it show that Councilman McQuaid is here. The time is 8:10 after 8. Gentlemen?
Mike, on the information that we received a couple of meetings back, there was a topo attached.
If you take a look at sheet 3, it shows the third sheet.
And I did note that from the one side of field 2 to the opposite side of field 1, there was a change in grade of 35 feet. That's a lot of cut and fill, and I believe if you cut, you're going to probably end up drilling. That's a lot of rock cut.
So I did take a look at the soils maps for this particular parcel, and again, we have to go out there and do some exploratory digging, maybe some test bits, to see what the limits are. But a majority of this site is actually located within what's called a marden soil, which is a very deep, moderately well-drained soil. The rock outcroppings actually, they border that open field area. So somebody years ago realized there was usable soil in this area, and probably actually cleared the specific area for some whatever purpose it was. If it was a farm operation, they recognized that there was something that was usable there with the soils. So I think it would be beneficial for us as a part of possibly the next step is to go out there with a small excavator, if we can get it back there, and actually poke holes around that perimeter to see where the actual rock outcroppings are, and see if we can actually do the grading without any significant impacts. And it is 35 feet, but that's a pretty long distance also, and I'd like to collect more accurate topographic information out there to actually look at this more closely and give you a better answer.
Gentlemen, there's also another part that you kind of like brushed over with moving some soil around. I'm looking at the parking area, and in order to have that whole area as a parking area, we're taking out the Faber barn and the Faber house. And we just went through one heck of a storm with the Faber barn. I think that you'll get a little bit of a kickback in the community because what you have here outlined as the parking area includes the barn and the house. So that means they would both have to be level. That's more than just pushing some soil around. You have another problem, and I've walked this along with Mr. McQuaid once before. When you leave the Faber Farm house, on either side you have wetlands. You would not be able to have an egress out of that area without going through those wetlands. So now you have another problem there. I think there's going to be some other alternatives to maybe look for some space. But I'm looking at the plan, and there's going to be a lot more involved. We have another plan as well. There's another issue, and that's Berry Road. And Berry Road, going down Berry Road, we were looking at doing some other things with this property before. And it was pointed out by the people in the public, they said, drive Berry Road in the winter, or drive Berry Road on a stormy day. And it's very narrow, it's not conducive to having, heavy traffic on that road. And if you get a popular soccer game going, you're gonna have probably, 50, 60, 70 cars going through there, especially if you have 3 fields. It would not be uncommon to have that on a busy soccer weekend. So we have other pieces of property to look at. It's not a bad idea to get some more soccer fields. I'm not against looking at it, but I just see there's a lot of other issues that I'm looking at on this that is going to be more than just pushing some soil around.
If I can have an opportunity to respond to your comments.
Please do.
The parking area, all I did was outline a generic area that we could look at. It's not suggested that we would utilize that entire area. Quite frankly, what we would probably utilize is the existing area where the gates are right now, a little bit further back and to the right. I would not probably go over where that existing culvert is right now, where the stream crosses over the road, recognizing that we couldn't impact that area. All I'm doing is saying, let's just look at this whole area holistically, not necessarily that we need the entire area.
It's the same thing that's outlined with the fields.
Well, the fields are just outlined in an open area. We need to gather more accurate data in order to truly show you something that's more detailed and has more impact than what we have shown here. This is just basically a cartoon sketch. It's a sketch plan. It's barely even conceptual on nature. That's how I opened up my actual discussion with the board tonight. So I think it's important for us to collect some more information and really take a good look at, or a harder look at what's here.
Well, but bringing in a backhoe is more than just bringing in just a few sketches. That's just my outlook on it. We have other properties that we can look at, but Berry Road is going to be a
the site distance as it relates to that particular parcel before I came to the board meeting right now. Now, again, I only paced it out. I didn't actually measure it accurately. But when you come out of that site where the fence is and you look to the right, you have to have 400 or 500 feet minimum of site distance. As I look to the left, I can see all the way up past the telephone pole over there, which exceeds 300 feet. So in terms of a 30-mile-an-hour road and what we have for available site distance, we're actually meeting minimum criteria and even exceeding it.
very good, but you still have a narrow road. You may have the distance, but you have a narrow road. Understood means we have to widen the road, and that is a considerable distance.
I didn't measure the width of the pavement, but we can do that next.
I'm not going to measure the width of the pavement. I can tell you that just driving on that road, and you get 60 or 70 cars and SUVs going back and forth with minivans, which is what you're going to have. I just see it as a potential issue.
And just a footnote, let me just add that the stone barn, we've had that debate. The debate is over, the stone barn will stay there. So we'll do your parking. I think everybody in this town knows the stone barn will stay there long after we're dead.
And that was discussed quite extensively here. And then to have that stone barn there and surrounded as a parking lot, I think will take away from the whole feeling and look of the whole area.
We were never proposing touching the barn in any way. We were never proposing leveling anything. That was never. He's just outlining the general area of how much parking would we need. This isn't an official study. This is just very basic to begin with. The second thing I'll say is that currently today we play all day Saturday, all day Sunday on Monroe Show Park soccer field. There's also a baseball field right there. There are 40 cars going to those fields, and I would almost guarantee that 90% or 80% of those cars are either taking Berry Road or Rye Hill Road to get there. So if they
They're not
haven't
taking
noticed,
Berry Road. They're not taking Berry Road. No, because Berry Road is past it. Berry Road is past it.
so if I'm coming from the
Monroe, you're not coming off of Berry to get to Monroe.
I take Berry
Ladies
Road
and
to
gentlemen,
soccer field.
ladies and gentlemen, we will conduct ourselves according to...
It's the only gentlemen. I'm
It
sorry.
has to do really with just protocol. We appreciate your comments at our next town board meeting. We will have public comment. However, I ask you again to please give the speakers the same consideration you would like to be accorded. So, that being said, I ask you to please reserve comments to yourself. Councilman, my apology for interrupting.
No, not a problem. And gentlemen, just excuse me for a minute. Please understand that this is just a beginning discussion. So there's not going to be any immediate decision made on this. You have a long way to go, correct, gentlemen?
Absolutely.
Before any decision would come close to being made. So right now, excuse me, gentlemen, I mean, I'm trying to bring up issues that are meaningful, not only to myself, but to the general public at large. And they're going to bring up issues that are of interest to them. So please look at it as an exchange of views from two different perspectives. And it doesn't mean that any one person is totally right or totally wrong. Right?
Absolutely.
Okay, so please continue. Jim.
So what I was saying that I guess caused the ruckus, so the entrance to the Mondacia soccer field is in between Bailey Road and Rye Hill Road. I don't know the exact distance of how many, fractions of a mile it is, but when I drive from the village of Harriman to Mondacia Field, I drive down Berry Road. Yeah, some people I'm sure take a right on Rye and go that way. Both those routes are utilized to arrive to Mondacia Field. That was my only point. So there's currently traffic going through there. Obviously, it's not an issue in the winter. We don't play soccer in the winter outdoors, so that's not a problem at all. So that was my only point.
All right, thank you.
Just let me also just add that we would absolutely want to work with the town and the public. I mean, we're not here to try to destroy the land. We're showing that we're trying to utilize the land even from a conceptual standpoint. It's minimizing that. We wouldn't want to impact the barn, and we wouldn't want to try to change the aesthetics of it as much as possible.
Oh, please don't misunderstand my point. I'm not trying to say what you're doing is wrong or bad, and I understand that there's different needs for it. And I think that between yourself and the board, we can come up with some viable alternatives. The public at large has always provided us with always some good information and other alternatives. And we'll be willing to look at it, whatever we can do to bring a solution to this, so that, everybody can more or less be satisfied with the outcome. Like I said, we have a lot of different other park properties that we can look at as well. And I'm sure we'll work with you as we can to have more access for activities, for our youth in the area. It's important.
Could you share some of those park lanes that you are talking about now? Do you have any suggestions?
Well, right off the top of my head, I'm thinking at right over the O'Neill mines. We had looked at before. There was quite a bit of landfill was put in. That hasn't been fully developed yet. And there's quite a bit of property back there. I'm sure it would take a little bit more doing, but there's also some access. It's right off of Orange County Turnpike. I don't think you gentlemen can get to it because it is fenced off, but I'd be more than happy to show it to you on a weekend or something. It's just something to keep in mind.
I wasn't part of the club at that point, but I do know that over 10 years ago, the previous president of our club was working with the town at some level to look at that property, and I don't know exactly what the issues were, and I didn't find that out, but I was told that there was quite a bit of work to be done on the access road, which is something that...
Right, that's true, but I think it has also better access because it's off Orange County Turnpike, and it was filled in quite a bit, and I think that we can do some more. So using our farmland fees, we may be able to develop that, and it's just an alternative. Sure. So I mean, if you're willing to work with us, we're willing to work with you. I think that we can have at least more than one piece of property to look at and come to some kind of agreement. I'm not trying to shut you down and say no more parks. I'm just saying that I don't see this as the best idea, but this is just the beginning phase of it, and if we can come up with an alternative, then great.
That's great.
And I think you gentlemen would be amenable if we can come up with something viable for you.
In the meantime, I'm looking for an alternative. Would there be any harm in collecting more data to just take a harder look at this project and see for certain I mean, I would love to have more accurate information and sit down with the board
I
again
understand.
to take a look at this and see that, hey, yes or no, we can really delineate a lot more of the issues and try to work them out, and we may not. And at the same time, we can follow a dual path and check out other alternatives that the town may have.
Well, at this point, it's a little too preliminary to, but we'll discuss that with the board.
I'd like to make one other observation. About 7 or 8 years ago, the entire Wright Hill Road corridor, if you will, was the subject of GEIS. There were 4 developments that wanted to go in there, and one of which started almost at the top of Wright Hill Road in Berry and worked its way, what would that be, westbound on Berry Road. And the observations and the final conclusions of the planning board was that for the plot that was right on Berry Road, the site distance, the width of the road, and how that entire road is carved out, it was probably never intended to have more than 5 or 6 cars on it in the course of the day back when the wagons went through. But the final decision of the planning board was, in that particular development and that site plan, we would not allow access to Berry Road at all. It had to be done through an internal roadway which would connect to Wright Hill Road at a point at the top of the hill. That's how the planning board ruled on that particular application. And to this date, it's never been developed. For a number of reasons, the connecting road and the adjoining developments never came to be. But I just wanted to let you know that the planning board at that time would not allow access onto Berry Road.
What was the name of the development and how many lots were proposed?
It was 11 lots. It backed onto Mabasha Lake.
14 Alpine.
Alpine Meadows, was it? Something like that? I don't remember that. Was it Alpine?
Alpine.
Yeah. Yeah, it was determined that that road was way too dangerous to even have access.
And how
To
far
Berry.
down, Berry was that? Because we're about a half a mile in off of West
I know
Monroe.
where you are. This is more toward the top,
Wright Hill.
the top of Wright Hill. It was probably about, I'm going to say, maybe 500 feet from the stop sign at the top of Wright Hill Road and Berry Road. That was the easternmost edge of the site. And then it extended to the west to the first home you see there.
Of course, we would gather this information. We would gather all this information, site distances, we would gather with the pavements, right-of-ways, we would try to seek this information out and prepare it and provide it to the board to make sure that we're just not precluding it.
Yeah, I think probably what we're saying though, I think Mr. Cologne would prefer to work with you on this one, but I don't think there's any chance that that is a good location for a soccer field. There are way too many neighbors. Parking, site distance. I can't see it, I really can't see it. And beside that, it's a beautiful park just the way it is. But the O'Neill mine is definitely worth looking at.
It has its own problems too that would have to be considered.
Right,
But we did look at that in the past for, I guess about 5 years ago.
Oh, 5 years
Looking at
ago.
it For using it as a field of some type, soccer, or baseball, or football. And there were some issues that came up. Some of the previous town board members took us on a tour of it and showed us both sides of it. And just an idea that might be worth looking into.
Which leads me to the question then that Berry Road Park wouldn't require much work in order for it to be prepared to be ready for us to utilize. The O'Neill site may be a different situation.
Yeah, it might be.
I mean, my understanding, last I heard something about the O'Neill site, is that there's a lot of fill required there, and that it's difficult to
A lot
find.
of fill was already put in.
So are we suggesting that there's grades have been
Well,
brought
what
to
I'm
proper
suggesting,
elevations?
no, what I'm suggesting is that we have to look at the site. It's just an alternative, but I'm sure that there's other pieces of property that we can also look at as well.
Anyone else? That being said, this is the first step. Obviously, there are two issues. One is the area, and then the second one, which is equal in many ways, and that's the needs of our families and the children. We need to find a solution. We have property. I remember when I first came on the board many years ago, the board was in the process of purchasing a lot of land for good reasons. Part of that reason was we were utilize it in the highest and best form. That being said, gentlemen, please, thank you. That being said, we need to find a solution that takes into consideration the efforts of the board a number of years ago when it purchased this property. Did it purchase it to be permanently passive, or did it purchase it so that it would be able to provide a type of a remedy so that children be able to use it in a recreational sense? We have we have the O'Neill Mine. Fortunately, Mr. Rogers is here and Mr. Martin is here, so they could probably, better than I, talk about other alternatives that might be possible. Jim, give me a minute, and unless you want to pull up the chair, you can, it's fine, but these two gentlemen have a tremendous amount of historical knowledge. They were there. I know Dennis was there on the planning board for many years. So we've got a good organization already here. It's a question of how do we provide the right option for the folks that live in the area, but also the right option for the almost thousands of kids that don't have fields to be able to call home. So it's a first step, but that's how we begin. So unless there's something else that you'd like to add or another comment from the town board members, I would thank you, and we will start looking at this. Unless, Jim, you want Mr. Mercante and Mr. Duffel here so that you can maybe have a rational, sane,
Well, I just
comprehensive discussion, because you and Peter really know this subject matter better than anybody else on this board. Mr. Rogers is the former councilman for the town of Monroe for many years, and he and Peter probably share major amounts of information as to what these parks were purchased for, how they were, and what they were intended to be, and what they could not be in many ways.
First, I'd like to thank you for allowing me to speak on this subject.
And Jim, I have to interrupt you because we need a motion for it. We just need a quick motion, Mr.
I'll make a motion. I'll second it.
Second call the question is aye.
Aye.
Aye, thank you.
Just as we started to talk about the parcel next door, Alpine, it's 52 acres, it was 14 houses, and some of the lots of those 14 were raised bed because of the ledge rock. It's just to show you. On the other side of the parcel is the Monroe Mines, which is solid rock. But the Berry Road Park is actually for passive recreation. Why? Because most all of it is rock outcroppings and ledge, and lots of wetlands. Now, when Mr. Faber went over there to farm, there was only that meadow that you're talking about. The rest of it was terrible for farming. He created the 3 ponds that are on that property, that are now wetlands, because he had a marginal well, and he had like 40 cows. And I grew up with his son on there, so I know quite a bit about it. But we're talking tonight about the one meadow on the Faber farm, which is on ledge and would require 35 foot of fill. Now, you talked earlier about taking dirt from the top and pushing it to the bottom. It's ledge. Believe me, it's ledge. Now, you'll have to take 4 samples, but you'll find out it's ledge. The whole area is rock. That part of the town, 15% of the town, is non-sewer. And the reason it was non-sewer is because of the rock. And all of Berry Road, Ludlam Road, Margaret Road, that whole area is non-sewered for that reason. 15% of the town. To require 35 feet to make a level playing field. Other negative features for this site are poor road access from Berry Road. It's an up and down and twisting rural narrow roadway. And There's no infrastructure for this site. You would have to cut large number of trees for parking. More trees would be taken down to have a leach field for hundreds of people that are come there. You just can't put 3 porta-johns there if you're going to have a field like we have in Monroe Town Park. You have to have infrastructure. Now, this leach field to supply enough facilities for, just say, 200 people on a soccer game, it's right next to the main waterway that feeds Monroe Reservoir. Not a good idea. It's all rock outcroppings and wetlands, the area behind, right next to the meadow. It's just the wrong site for what you want to do. Now, I understand you have a lot of kids who want to play soccer, and the kids don't care whether they play soccer, whether it's in a favor farm, or whether it's in a landfill, or in the own mine. We're just saying that this is the wrong site. And I'll give you alternatives. I would suggest to the board, as an alternative, the O'Neill mine site or the landfill site would be a much better alternative. Both sites have been engineered for 2 fields each. The town has records of this, and I was on the board when they closed the landfill, and they were engineered for 2 fields, both sites. I have to film and I'll be sharing with the board if they need them. They're both off the county roads, County 5 on Lakes Road, and I don't know the number, I think it's 19 on my Mansion Ridge. One is in the sewer district, that's Lakes Road, and the other's next to a sewer plant for Mansion Ridge. So some kind of deal could be made for that part of the infrastructure.
Mr. Rogers, what about extending, and you probably know the answer to this, extending Monroe, is that a possibility, or are there limitations with that?
You have limitations with
Extending
Monroe.
Monroe.
The problem with extending that is that we have the lake, we have something surrounded by wetlands. We have the same problems with wetlands.
Monroe Town Park, there's nothing you can,
You can't extend.
everything is the soccer field, the baseball field, and down to where the wells were. And that's the reason we chose that site. It had 2 good wells on it, and it was in a sewer district. That was the reason we developed that site. Now, it takes X number of dollars to build a field, whether you build it Favor Farm, or the landfill, or O'Neill. It's X number of dollars. But to take a site that needs a lot of site work before you can put the field there, that's what I'm worried about. Now, I know the town wants to have a solar farm on the landfill site, but please consider making the Berry Road Park the solar farm. You would not have to cut any trees. You wouldn't have to fill 35 feet of dirt to make it level. It would be ideal for the grade because the meadow is in its ideal angle for the solar farm. Use the landfill that is level for something like that, much cheaper. So in ending, we're not against building sports fields, but we think it would be more beneficial for the town and the taxpayers to choose a site with infrastructure available or in place. And I want to thank you for allowing me to at least address the issue.
Thanks, Jim.
Mr. Rogers, thank you.
This is on. I want to ask you a question. It's an interesting idea you have with the switching sites like that. Do you think that that would be, and I know you know the area historically over there, would that be a problem having a solar field there? Do you think that would cause an uproar, or what do you think?
No, the landfill was a solid waste landfill. Never had any garbage, and it was closed. We removed everything from the site. It's been checked with the DEC. They monitor it and whatnot. It's a safe site.
No, what I was saying, you're right, I'm sorry. You're right. I was saying if we went, and I think your idea has a lot of merit, if we went and switched sites and made the landfill fields like your suggestion, and Berry Farm, the solar farm, so to speak, do you think that would cause any issues because of the recreation or because of the neighborhood? You've been there, won't you? Know what I'm
Not
saying?
at all, because of the topography of the Berry Road Park. It's all rock. The mines are on one side and Alpine is on the other. It's just ledge, the whole thing. Now, I know when the town went up and mowed the field, they were always running into the rock. You can see it rock coming right out of the ground. So I don't believe that you can turn around and take dirt from this side and put 15 feet down here and have a level playing field. I could be wrong, but that would come out if you took four samples and whatnot. But just all the other aspects, the traffic, the parking lot, the leach field, all these are much better off at a particular site. And we want to have the kids have soccer fields. We want to develop. That's why we purchased the O'Neill mine site. And there's a Fusco engineering. I have the book. It's designed for 2 fields. Costs money, but it's designed for that. So it's a viable alternative.
Do you think there would be negative impacts on the neighborhood if we did that?
For a solar farm?
Yeah.
None at all. It's quiet. And
No, I'm just saying.
doesn't create any problem, any traffic,
Well, a solar farm would be
access,
Okay.
nothing. Thank you.
From our perspective, we obviously just want fields, so wherever is in town, we're happy with. I mean, it doesn't matter to us. I'd love to know how we can proceed on the other sites. If the board feels like we should abandon the ideas of Berry Road and just explore these others, I'm perfectly fine with that. All we're looking for is fields for the kids to play on, that's all.
But we're gonna talk about it later as a board, but I would say it's a very interesting idea Jim came up with, and I just hope the public reaction, if we do something like that over Berry, I know a lot of people are here from the area. We're not trying to hurt the area, we're just trying to find some good recreation for the kids. And also now, as Jim suggested, maybe we'll be better off doing it in another way. We'll have to look into that. But, you know, it's just moving forward, some things change. And as Rick and Dan noted, I guess we're not tearing any barns down or doing anything like that, no matter what happens. So that's off the table. I think it's something that we should look at, and we should go on for solar tomorrow and talk to them right away, not delay on that. Yeah. Thanks, Jim.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Okay, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
This was a good conversation, and I thank Mr. Rogers for contributing his knowledge. It's something which is hard to replace. He's been here, he's done it, he understands it in ways that many of us can only imagine. But we still have a responsibility to the children. And we will pursue this so that everyone winds up ahead. We have 600-700 acres of land that we purchased over the years, and we need to bring it to some kind of maximum benefit without impairing the rights of the people that live in the community, but also at the same time making sure that the future of the children is secured.
One quick comment, when Rick and I first got on the board, Jim took us out to the mine, and we looked at the field, and for some reason there was some expense involved, some moving of earth. There was a certain area in the back where we walked the gym where there was some tar put out there, some little bit of rubble that would have to be removed and trucked out. But there is, you know, it's not perfect, but it's definitely a workable idea that the old board members had talked about having fields out there, but thank you.
Moving right along.
We have the announcements. We have wonderful news, and that is the grand opening for TMAC, Town of Monroe Arts Civic Center, is going to be on June 19th. We were very fortunate. We had the #1 blockbuster of the year, I think the second in the history. We're going to wait. We'll wait until the posts are out. And by the way, for the folks that live in the area, thank you for coming. And as you can see, this is a work in progress. So we'll inform you to Channel 22. As you notice, Channel 22 is being updated, and as each day, each week passes by, you're going to see dramatic improvements now that we're up and running and finally online.
Mike's not working.
It's not working right.
It's okay. No, I'm not.
I don't use the word.
It's a low.
It's low.
I don't think they can hear.
Well, they got to quiet down. All right, ladies and gentlemen,
No, he's not loud.
we're going to continue now with the rest of the meeting. We have the announcement for the grand opening of the Monroe, Town of Monroe Art and Civic Center will be on June 19th. We will be continuing the run with Jurassic World. It'll also be the blockbuster from Disney, Inside Out will be playing, and I believe we're going to continue with Spy. So we're going to have 3 absolute blockbusters that are going to be there. Remember, all the residents, the price is $7. And this includes also, if you bring in the air and mention that you're a resident of the town of Monroe, you're entitled to a free, I'm reading from the script here, a free hot bag of delicious popcorn for the that weekend. Remember, the theaters are new digital projectors. There's a large gluten-free menu. We have the $5 large combo, and just so that you know, because we are faced with a boycott, and it is hard to measure a boycott because it just doesn't happen. And it's hard to be able to gauge that, but what we're doing is we're marketing, and as a result, we have on station 104, we have this very nice ad that's going to be running this week, and just to give you an idea, here you go.
$7 to see a blockbuster movie? Incredible! Where? At the Monroe Movie Theater. On June 19th, the Monroe Movie Theater is having their grand opening, and you're all invited. All weekend tickets are just $7. And to make this deal even better, a large soda and extra large popcorn is only $5. See Jurassic World or Inside Out. K104 will be there for the grand opening, and you can meet on-air talent from 5 until 7. Sign up for great giveaways, too. Then take the family to the movies. On Saturday, see a live performance from the Hudson Valley String Quartet.
So as you can see, we've had close to 1,000 people. We've had close to 1,000 people this weekend coming to the movie theater. So for those 1,000 people, their families, their friends, thank you for coming. Thank you for showing support. And you know what? It's $7 for a ticket and $5 for a large soda and an extra large popcorn. We are absolutely the best deal in Orange County and anywhere. So as we wind up improving each and every week, we're going to be working harder and harder to get to where we need to be able to say we bought the movie theater for the right reasons, and we're also developing it for even better reasons. So that being said, I just wanted to make that comment. If there's anything the board would like to know regarding
Harley?
Yes.
That's Friday the 19th at what time, 5 or 6?
Friday the 19th, it begins at 6 o'clock.
6 o'clock, okay. Good, and is that run the whole weekend?
For the whole weekend.
The whole
Friday,
weekend.
Saturday, Sunday. I believe on Saturday there's K104 will be there. On Friday, on Saturday we'll have another activity, and then on Sunday as well. So
The Hudson Valley String Quartet is Saturday afternoon.
the Hudson Valley String Quartet will be there from 5:30 to 6:30, and immediately after, the Village of Monroe, I believe, has its season concert. Is it this week coming as well? No? All right, so then there's a lot of things to do, and it's many of these activities are free, and stop in for, like I said, for a nice free bag of popcorn and enjoy the show.
Should I tell them Murray sent you?
Yeah, tell them all these, actually, tell them
Harley, what time is the string quartet there
it's
Saturday?
5:30 to 6:30.
Very nice. Very nice.
That being said, moving right along, we have a resolution to pay the bills.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Call the question.
Aye.
We have a couple of budgetary amendments and transfer requests from the comptroller. We have the Tabor Farm Reserve request, transfer from A0007124 4210-00. This will allow payment for the oil tank replacement.
And that's in the budget, correct?
It's a
Well,
transfer.
it's a transfer from a capital reserve fund for the Tabor Farm to pay for the tank. The tank got charged off to the utility line, and the utility line's over, but there's money in the reserve for the Tabor Farm, and this is an appropriate use of that capital money to do that. So I'm requesting a transfer to cover the tank replacement.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Any discussion? Call the question.
Aye.
It's a request from A Fund Contingency of $5,500 to the TMAC legal from A fund contingency to the A000-1622-4010-00.
What's this one now?
This was for the notice of violation, which lodged a legal and criminal complaint against the town of Monroe, from the village of Monroe. We had to defend the action. This is the cost.
Right. And that's now settled, correct?
It was, the case was, they withdraw, meaning the village withdrew their action.
Okay. And how much is this one?
It's transfer of $5,500.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
Any discussion?
Had to be defended and worked out well.
Call the question? Aye. We have a request for transfer of contingency from $2,500 A fund, A000-1620-00, shared services equipment, and this is for the purchase of the trailer and water tank. Actually, I know this one. This is for the building and maintenance. This is the trailer that they use to be able to transport their different items from the boathouse to the different kinds of equipment, as well as a water tank to be able to water the plants. The irony on this is that we have a lot of plants, however, we don't have the means of being able to water the plants. So we have this, the women, the Flower Society? The Garden Club, sorry, the Garden Club goes out of their way each year to plant and do some really nice things around the town-owned properties. However, we have a problem just being able to water them. Last year, we did the right thing and it turned into a problem because we didn't have the ability to be able to water the plants effectively. So this would provide the water tank and the pressure system to be able to get the water out and water the plants.
Harlan?
Yep. It's also for pressure. It's also to be able to use for pressure washing, so that in areas that we don't have a hookup, but we'll have the ability to do that as well.
And how much is the tank?
The whole thing, I think the trailer is $1,800, the water tank, and then
About $400 for the tank.
That's it?
Approximately.
Oh,
it's one of those large plastic containers. It's the delivery system, which is probably equal to the cost of the tank, because it has to be pressurized, otherwise the water, there's not enough pressure, it's gravity fed. It just trickles out, so you have to have it pressurized for it to be able to come out. That's what it's for. That being said, I need a motion for it.
I'll make the motion.
We need a second for discussion.
yeah, I'll second the motion.
Any further discussion? Call the question, please.
I had one question. I'm just curious, more than anything else. The trailer and the water tank, where are we parking them?
The trailer, well, there would be two places. One, we have inventory for building and maintenance over in Berry Farm, over at Faber Farm, or we have right behind us at the, we also have containers that we purchased last year. We have shipping containers that are also used for storage.
How big is the water tank? How many gallons?
I don't know.
Because it seems pretty small, a couple $100.
It's,
The only reason I bring that up is because,
They determined it's a large enough tank for what they need to do.
yeah, but also I think if we work something out with the village, because they have a truck. No?
Call them tomorrow, find out.
We'll vote on this. 400.
question?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. We have, next up is the, Peter, I have here for this TMX initial cinema operating budget. Yes. What we wanted, bear with me because I'm looking at my, okay, we have under amendments, Dennis. And you have a copy of this. Peter, you generated this. This is the operating budget for between now and, Peter, stop me if I'm incorrect on this, between now and the end of the year?
End of the year, but it's initial.
Okay. Would you walk us through, and obviously, Mr. Waters, if you would help steer us through as he's walking us through. All right?
The concept here is You've hired people, we have expenses, we have to start paying for it. I propose that we have an initial budget, and this is bare bones on the expense side. And unlike other departments, it even shows employee benefits. When you look at the budgets of other departments, we don't always tack out what the employee benefits are for that. So I'm trying to present you with a full understanding of what the basic costs are going to be between now and the end of December. My proposal is that this is, I called it an initial operating budget because my anticipation is that the board will revisit this on a periodic basis, tracking to see how we're doing. I've used, for the ticket sales, I used a base that we had from a booking model. The concessions are based on we currently have three weeks worth of data on how many, on what the value of concession revenue that's generated per ticket. So I use that to determine what the concessions would be based on the ticket sales, and the average ticket sale is $7. So things have been worked out that way. Concession supplies were based on concession sales, so there's a relationship between that. The film rental fees are based on the rental fees that we're anticipating to pay for the films based on the box office sales, which is $184,000. So this is an initial budget to get us started. And what I would like the board to do would be to adopt these changes in the 2015 budget so that we can move forward with operating T-MAC.
Dennis? Again, this is where...
You're using this really as a template and with all your rough estimates, and also obviously the employee benefits are more exact, which, as you said, a lot of places, and even in certain parts of our budget, we don't list everything this exactly, but that's great. I think you did a good job being precise, which is what we need. So, as you said to me earlier, we would then use this as a point of adjustment and, you know, figuring out everything as it goes on, so we have somewhere to change our numbers and let the public know what's going on.
Right.
Okay.
Peter, one
Point of information. Right?
And Dennis, I'm sorry if I interrupted either one of you, but now that we've started this employee benefits, if we're going to do it for one department, we're going to do it for all the departments, and that's reasonable, because I guarantee that we will be the only town or village municipality in Orange County, including the county, that does it. It'll give the public an idea as to what people are not only making, but what their benefits are. We have some make $100,000, $108,000 a year, in addition to part-time work, in addition to additional employee benefits, and by the time you get done, they're making almost $200,000 plus. It's not the exception, it's probably fairly emblematic of how it works. But as we learned a couple of years ago, almost 70 to 80% of the benefits that 70 to 80% of the total salary you can compute into benefits. We have a wonderful school system. The average income for the teacher is about $101,000, but it works out to about $160,000, $170,000. I would like the school to wind up stripping out, you know, the employee benefits so we can understand as taxpayers. I'd like the villages to do it, and we will do this unless the board has some objection. I can't imagine why we won't continue to do this with all the departments as we move through the budgetary year, so that the public understands where their tax dollars go and the benefits that the employees are receiving. Thank you.
Yeah, I think that would be a good move on the overall for the budget. Not so much that I'm concerned that the public needs to know about salaries, because that is a published item during the budget session. But I think even more importantly, to get a bottom line picture of what each department costs. For example, you know, we look at DA fund and DB fund and try and figure out, oh, this is what highway Department of Public Works costs us, but you've got to be able to know which lines to go after and add together, et cetera. To put this kind of focus on it, with fully loaded with benefits, et cetera, should give everybody an idea, a very good idea of what some of these departments cost to run. And then we can have some intelligent conversations about, is that the right amount of money to spend on that particular function? I think that would be very worthwhile. As far as the cinema budget goes, I appreciate the fact that it is initial. Let me just ask the controller one question. In terms of the ticket sales, $184,000, what are the screens that are used in this calculation? Is that 15 shows per night?
That's on the current,
7 days
based
a
on the
week?
current schedule, and so it turns out to be, yes, 15 shows per week with 3 screens.
One of the things that I would be interested in, you talked about keeping an eye on how this is playing out as we go forward, both in terms of revenues and expenses. One of the things that we can do, and if the revenues aren't there, or the expenses get too high, is I'd be most interested in the 15 showings per night. We cut that back? Do we cut?
That is per week.
Per week.
That's
15
5
per-
shows per theater
per week, yeah.
per night.
It's per week. 15
Per week?
There are 15 shows
45
per theater per week, so 45 shows.
45 a week.
My point is still the same, whether you have that many, whether you need to have that many shows.
Correct.
If you're not filling it up on Wednesday nights and Thursday nights, but only on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, we need to make some accommodations
Absolutely.
too.
And
But the
that's
expense,
part of what you want to track.
yeah, that's exactly what you want to look at.
And
To
until,
be able to react to whether you've got income or revenue or not.
and until we start to get some statistics, it's
Right.
difficult because, you know, this is a different microcosm here in Monroe, and you can't, I don't know if you can necessarily base this on what happens nationally. I don't know if you can base it on what happens in Newburgh.
Right.
So we're getting some good results together now. The board will start to get monthly reports on how we're doing for concessions, for tickets. We can look at some ways to measure it out. We can look at the, as I said before, like what are we generating in concession sales per ticket? Those are important figures to measure.
To do any kind of forecast.
To measure how we're doing, and then we can start to forecast.
But I'll bring this point up again. I'll bring up this point again. And I said, 7 days a week for a movie theater is not a viable thing. I know you want to track what's the busiest day and what's the worst day, but I don't think it's going to take a lot to figure out unless it's a holiday weekend. Monday is going to be dead.
If you look at the national statistics for theaters, the one place where we probably will fall in line with what is out there,
Time's
the
done.
work, the bulk of the viewing is done on the weekends. The weekends account for
Friday, even Thursday.
80-something%.
Right, Thursday, Friday,
Okay.
Saturday, Sunday.
And so then beyond that, it's a question of looking at what it costs and what are the benefits and looking to the bottom line, which is just what Councilman McWaters is talking about.
I think that's going to be an important part of how we manage this.
I think it's going to be an essential.
Nobody shows up on Mondays. There's no
That's-
sense having 6 people on the concession stand or
Right.
3 people, I'm making up numbers. 3
Basically, that's
people
what I'm
collecting
saying.
tickets. Yeah.
You're right. That's
We make some-
precisely the
we make
case.
some modifications.
Right, and, you know, that's part of the learning curve.
Right.
But why do we have to put it out there to never mind. No, because if we're open 7 days a week and we know darn well that place is going to be empty for the middle of the week or at least right after the weekend, unless it's a holiday weekend, then why are we open Monday, Tuesday?
That you're basing that on your assumption and your thinking, but in order to measure that out, you need to look at the actual data.
We can also
And
look
we
at the
get-
data for other theaters in the
No,
area.
we get our own data. We get the data of ticket sales per day broken down by all the different classes of sales that are made.
Okay.
So all that information is out there. And the board can have full reports about how it's doing on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis. What are the total ticket sales? What are the total concessions? How does credit versus cash break down? That's
From what you've
that's all
seen,
there.
from what you've seen so far, what do you think would be the best timing for us as a public entity to look at these numbers on a
Well,
one-month basis and
Yeah, the first
try and read something into the
Sure. The
results?
first thing we have to do is we have to move our thinking a little bit that because new releases come out on Fridays. The changes are made on Fridays. So this business is measured on a Friday through Thursday schedule. So we made a deposit today that was almost $10,000.
Very nice.
But that doesn't really cover the week up through this Thursday, so we don't know where it's really going to be until we get to the commitment. So we have to start thinking about it a little bit differently because it's not just because of the way the releases go, and that's how the expenses need to be tied out and looked at.
You also had a lot of credit card receipts too, right?
We're doing somewhere between 60%. No, not 60%, but we're getting over 35%. Close to 40% in credit card receipts.
And Dennis,
Right.
and to the board members, I'm there constantly. One of the things that we have to deal with is how do we make the most effective use of the ad dollars, because you cannot run a movie theater without advertising. And as we saw with what one person did with the Facebook, was amazing in terms of the support that was generated in opposition to the movie theater, using Facebook and those kind of tools, social media tools, to be able to overcome a boycott, which I truly believe was hurting the bottom line, and I wish it was called off for the benefit especially of the business owners who struggle enough to be able to pay their bills. That being said, we need to look at this, at the advertising as a part of what we need to do to keep this business going. And part of the problem is we don't know until Monday what we're going to be showing. So every movie theater chain has the same problem. They don't know what movies they're going to be getting until that Monday.
Until you get the commitment.
We get the commitment on a Monday, so we've got a small window to be able to make sure that our ad dollars are properly placed and anticipate that it's going to be a slow week because of the cyclical nature of the business, as well as some movies just bombs, some are blockbusters, that we try to anticipate the staffing accordingly. So one week we may need X amount, another week we may need half that, because you've got a very dull lineup. This week is really solid. I mean, we've got Jurassic World, Inside Out, and Spy, 3 really solid movies. However, we have Jurassic World right now. It brought in probably 80% of the gate. Peter? We had another movie, wonderful Japanese movie. It had all the intellectual qualities that one could possibly imagine. It performed poorly. It was just one of these things. We have another movie coming up that should do well in the boutique line. But it's each week is a new week. It's and we need that month to be able to get hard figures, show some kind of a curve. So
Let me point out a couple of factors too. We have professional management there, and so of course we'll lean on them and see what they recommend. But there's a meeting every Tuesday morning at 10:30 to which any councilman can come if they're, if they're old, can get away from their day job. And so it's possible for each councilman to be updated weekly on what's going on. And they close on, I think on Monday there's only one show, and our people are getting $9 an hour, and there's no benefits, they're part-time. So if you have 2 people there, I mean, what's the cost you to stay open? You don't save a whole lot by closing it. And then a number of the distributors look askance at an operation that doesn't not open 7 days. If you're closing Monday and Tuesday, you might not be able to get the big pictures that enrich you on the weekend. So we might have to continue to 7 days, but all this should be looked at. This is all tentative. We'll keep reviewing it, and the little red at the bottom, if we can make that smaller, great. But in the meantime, I think that our citizens have discovered the theater, and they've been coming in and having a great time. And it's, I think it's done a great job for the village of Monroe as well as the town.
I'll make a couple quick points, Dan, if you're done.
Sure. Yeah, Dan is finished.
Okay, thank you, Dan. Good point. The thing about getting the movies and you having to stay open is a good point. I hadn't thought of that one recently, but I know Brian Burke had mentioned it too. The thing I'll mention is, I was recently around the county, Chester, Warwick, and I know some people were asking me about the theater, and some of them were really looking forward to come back over here because they had come years ago. They really liked the theater's design, the lobbies, and the high quality of the whole atmosphere. Besides the fact that they would eat in the restaurants in the area, they also had the ponds to walk around with their family and friends or whatever, the date. And a lot of people from the other parts of the county didn't know the movie theater was open until very recently. And I think that we're going to get some businesses from neighboring towns and villages. The other point I'll make is I was out with a group of people the other night, and actually it's over a week ago, sorry, but we went to the one of the local restaurants, and we noticed that in the theater, people we had seen out at the village restaurants were in the theater. So I think that what you've got to realize with businesses is, as was in the, as Harley pointed out earlier, the village master plan, that there's a ripple in the pond effect, that when one business does well, that it spreads out, especially in a walking area where we have in the village of Monroe, where other people will go then to other restaurants and places to have a libation or just to hang out and check out what they want to buy during the week, the next week. The fact is that people are noticing it. I think it's bringing some life back into the village, and I think it's a good thing. I hope it continues.
It's just going to take a while for people to get used to seeing
Yeah.
it open. So moving
Yeah.
right along, what do we have next?
Peter, can I just ask you a question about rental fees?
Yes, sir.
That is per movie, but it's not per showing, right?
That is correct. It's based on the box office.
Functional.
So, in order to, rental fees, that's correct.
Yeah.
And so, in order to come up with the budgetary number for that, I used 45% as the measurement, and it's based on the gross sales. So it's 45% of the gross, box office gross.
And film procurement and presentation?
That's for the film projectionists and the Downing doing the film selection and procurement.
Okay.
And then they advertise as well.
Okay.
And setting the advertisement.
Excellent.
Advertising.
Fine.
Now, the employee benefits obviously relate, most of this relates to the full-timers, and we
Correct.
have, what, how many of
Two.
them? Two?
Two.
Part-timers do incur some cost in terms
Correct.
of Social Security,
Yep.
Medicare,
Yep,
et cetera.
and that's in there.
So those lines don't appear to be all that large, so cutting back on a $9 an hour staff member may not necessarily be all that much in savings, but it's something we have to take into account.
Something to take into
But these are the kinds of things that I would really like to have on a monthly basis that we review with the controller, with the board, with the public, issue these numbers and just go through it and just, is there a better way to do it? Is it great? Are we really pulling in money? But the bottom line is, and despite what things have been said about me, I don't believe the government belongs running a movie theater. However, I don't believe the town would be able to sell an empty building that would be sitting there deteriorating. So let's give this a shot, let's give it a best shot, but if it's not going to make it in the short term, then we have to think of something else. If it does make it, hey, maybe we can sell it for twice of what we bought it for. Just want to give you my position. But I would like to have, on a monthly basis, go through all the receipts and et cetera, just so everybody knows where we are.
Make it part of the business.
And by the way, that's 3 times what we bought it for. Like,
Excellent.
So one with that, Dennis, is the fact you mentioned with the part-timers.
Yep.
I went to a meeting the other week, and it was a staff meeting for the young people and others that work at the theater, from the co-managers. It was a nice meeting. They went over rules and regulations and what's expected of them. It was, I thought, it done very professionally. And it was just nice to see all the local people there getting ready to do jobs for the summer. There were some college students, high school students, and some people who are beyond that age group. And it's another thing that you provide, just because you have to run the place, that you're providing some part-time jobs for people in the town and village. And I think that's part of what you got to realize. It's not just numbers, it's people's, sometimes their first job, or something they hold on to for a while, if they do well at it. And it just was a nice feeling seeing the people getting started there on what they seem to be quite enthused about. Thanks.
And let's understand this correctly. The thing that we should all take pride in is the diversity in our hiring. We have a number of young folks that have some concerns, and we are there. They have coaches that help to supervise them, and they are working out beyond expectations, and we're very proud of that. We also have a number of retirees, and they look at this job, and it's amazing how dedicated they are the moment that they set foot in the door until the moment that they leave, and we have them as well. And yes, we have some volunteers, and we also have the young kids. And when you look at the parks, the Flow Park, as well as the boathouse, and now the movie theater, I venture to guess we're probably around the 70, 80, 90 range of employees, more. Right, probably more. And these are all young people. They're bringing in money for themselves, or in some cases, they're bringing in money for their family. So it's providing a service that way. And the other great thing is that these kids, and I'll tell you, they go to the local deli up the block, and they frequent those restaurants more than most people do. So our young folks are probably giving another shot in the arm to the local deli and the local small restaurant, delicatessen. And I know they're happy about it, and we're happy that it's a win-win for everyone. So I will, though, say that the $9 cutting down is, we have to cut because it's 9 times whatever the amount of hours are, times 5 or 7, and we just need to try to minimize the amount of risk. And it's something which, again, I'm in there trying to make sure how do we wind up doing it. For instance, we have a security. We need to have security. It's a public facility. We're going to have a security guard. He or she's paid $14 an hour, unarmed. However, we need somebody, whether it's a retiree or somebody, to be able to have that capacity. They also could wind up taking the tickets right next to the booth. Excuse me?
Yeah,
So we've eliminated one person having to take, because of the way that the movie theater is constructed, you have 2 theaters, 1 theater. Where we have the security, they wind up taking the tickets. If for some reason something occurred, obviously we would find a very quick alternative. The manager would come in and take the tickets or whatever they decided to do. But just things like this, we're in our 3rd week.
Well,
Each day we
glad
wind up.
you're there every day to oversee this.
I'm there. I'm
And
there, and it's, yesterday, I'm going to tell you, yesterday I was doing a counting of the candies, because I need to know, before we order more candy, how much candy do we not only sell, how much do we have remaining in the physical inventory. So at 10:23, I was doing that. And you're right, I'm there because this board demands
Well, I don't think you have to go
that we succeed.
into
And
the
we do
county.
everything to make sure we do.
But anyway, I'm just glad that you're keeping a tight eye on the expenses. So moving right along, what else do we have?
I would just like to make one other comment. Some of you may have noticed I've been going through the bills that have to be paid tonight. And what I was doing was pulling out everything that was related to the A fund at Department 7010, which is the movie theater. There are a couple of expenses that are probably going to get under the radar from this budget. They're falling into
John, can you-
1680 and 1622 and have to do with the theater server. We would also like to keep track of all of those kinds of expenses that are not being related directly to the budget line item 7010, but have to do with the theater. The 1680 account and the 1622, I apologize, I don't know the line, was $10,000. Now, I realize this is hardware, it's a one-time shot, it doesn't get expended over and over again, but, you know, that along with the 130 for the projectors, et cetera. So if we go for a sell price, these are the kinds of things that you want to add up, because this is the money that you put into that facility to make it operative. So the building is no longer worth $880,000. There's a bigger investment than that, and we don't want to lose track of that. That's it, I'm done.
I have one excellent point. I have one last point I want to make about the village. And if you look at the government-owned village, Dennis and I differ a little on our theory on the government owning of the theater, and that's fine. Everyone has an opinion and a theory on government and expenditure. But I will say one thing: if you look around the village from an overhead view, if you look at the racetrack, which is owned by the taxpayers, the old racetrack in the village, you look at the library, you look at the movie theater, you look at Smith Close Park, and you look at even the maintenance of the parking lot that was purchased by the village over near the old hardware store in that area. Then you look at the park, airplane park, let's say, and then you look at the ponds and all the work that's get put into the ponds, the pavilion, the what do you call the little structure they do up there, the gazebo, the maintenance of the lawn there, and the investment to keep clean the walking path and the walking jogging path year round, and the ponds. I mean, this is an area in the village where a lot of this public ownership and investment is all in one zone, and it's something that makes our village and our town better for it. It's not something that I think, I know some people want to sell the theater, and some people want to sell it later. I understand that everyone has a right to what they want to do. We'll see what eventually does happen. But I think it would be a shame to have a knee-jerk reaction to this, whether it's for whatever reason. Because when you look at what the ponds and the walking paths, and now the theater and the library, and if the village ever does find a good use for the racetrack, which I have a problem with, and I still do, but I give them their respect that they're doing what they have to do, what they feel is right with it. And Smith Clove Park, and eventually with the parking lot. These are investments that were made by the different municipalities, and hopefully they'll be even better used in the future, and they've served our community well. The life of this village and town in that area is being built up more and more, and I think it's going to help the businesses and the sales tax and the jobs and the investment, and that's the other benefit you get from it. Not just the ability to go see a movie, but the other community benefit you get from it, and the sales tax and the building up the business. That's the point I'm trying to make. And I think all those things are good, like with the summer concerts. I think everything is good. Some business owners have told me they don't like the summer concerts because people bring their own stuff to the concert. They say it's a little slow that night, actually. I don't know if that's true. I haven't done any study. I don't know if the village has. But I think it brings interest right into the village and perks up the town and village. So I think it's a good thing, but that's just my opinion. Thanks.
Thank you. Peter, do we need to make a motion on this?
Yes, right.
We need to make a motion.
I'll make it.
I need you to make a motion to amend the 2015 budget to include these revenue and expense lines.
I'll make the motion to amend the 2015 TOM budget to include the TMAC initial cinema operating budget that has been put forth here.
I'll second the motion.
Any further discussion?
Discussion. Right now, the budget for 7010 movie theater, I believe, is about $165,000.
For the 1622. What do you mean?
What's in
Right
the,
now, this budget,
Yeah.
what's in the current year budget?
for 7010, there
7010.
isn't really anything.
Okay.
I thought we.
Now we're getting to my point. If there's nothing in there, and now it has to jump up to 364,000 plus
Yep.
35,000, so we're gonna go
400,
from 160 to 400,000.
yes.
And we're gonna do that by increasing revenue.
Well, the revenue is 257 projected, right?
Right, so the bottom line is a loss of 142.
That is correct.
And that
Correct.
loss of 142 would be the equivalent of what's currently in the budget of 160 or whatever, less than, right?
You might look at it that way.
It's another one.
So we've already budgeted for it.
You
I'm
haven't
just
budgeted
wondering,
for
you know,
it.
if we're gonna make a funds transfer, it
No.
really has to, we just can't say, you know, I mean, if I did that at work, and I just made numbers up and I didn't have the offset in cash or whatever, I'd put the company in jeopardy.
Right.
So,
I thought we were gonna make a follow budget.
The offset, right now, the offset would be where the offset is for any department budget where revenues are less than expenses.
okay.
It would be either that it's made up in fund balance, appropriated, or the differences in revenues and expenses in other departments within that A fund, this is in the A fund, mask up, make up the difference.
Right.
So I think your point is you want to see how is this related to the total A fund budget, for example.
Well, typically when we do a budget transfer, you tell us
This
it's
is,
moving
but this is
from
not a
A
transfer.
to
This is
moving-
this is amending the budget to include new lines. These lines don't exist,
That's correct. They
so
don't
we have to
exist.
create.
And that part I understand, but how do these lines get filled? What's the offset?
Where is the money coming from?
We just can't change the bottom line of the budget.
No, you would change the appropriated fund balance right now, the balance.
Oh, so it's one.
Okay. The 142, the negative 142.
All right, rather than prolong this and everybody's falling asleep out there, could we, is it possible that we table this particular motion and put it in a format where we can see the offsets moving from A to B or line to
It doesn't move from A to B, and we're not moving money
Well,
around.
then I don't understand the fund transfer.
It's not as a transfer, this is an amendment to the budget.
It's a whole creation.
You have to create a budget for this purpose.
But see, here's my other problem. We created a budget. You created a budget in November that was this big. Now you're asking us to change that budget so that it's this big.
That's correct.
Something else in the equation has to move up or down. And that's the piece I don't get. Unless you're telling me it's all gonna come out of fund balance.
I think that's what he is telling you.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay, and what's coming out of fund balance, $142,000?
Estimated.
Yes.
As of tonight, yes. Estimated. That's the estimate tonight.
You'll get that?
And a month from now, you'll see,
We pay
How
fund
we're
balance
doing.
back?
Well, that's a good question.
In other words, by
the
December,
cash,
by
it's
December.
really the
One person
cash.
has to do it
Really
three
cash.
times.
Okay, go ahead, go.
The money that we take in, is that applied part or fully against the fund balance that we
No.
took away?
The money that you collect goes into cash in the A fund.
To take, yeah.
The expenses that you have come out of cash in the A fund. I mean, that's the way it works. So the dollars aren't red, blue, and white to decide, which particular program are they supporting. But you do have the summary. You get the summary. We'll adopt. What I'd like you to do is adopt the changes. And then what we will do going forward is every month we will have a summary showing, how are we achieving our goals? What are our actuals? What have we gotten in revenues, and what have we expended, so that you can see exactly the progress of this.
Yeah, my feeling on this is we were doing this to do ongoing comparison on, and an actual, as Dennis mentioned with the budget, I didn't think, and I know Dennis was concerned, and he's right, being concerned about it, I think, but I thought this was more so people in the public and people on the board and people, the comptroller and everyone else can have everything in a line, figure out everything as it goes weekly and monthly, and have a real study as we move forward to go, because I feel that the public was also rightfully so clamoring for a working budget or some kind of budget so they could look at it. I think this is the step in the right direction, unless you don't want to have a budget like this and we just continue forward with expenses and income and just make it work. I mean, that's another option.
Where do you take it from?
No.
So I'm saying if Dennis and the board doesn't want to adopt this, then it's not going to change the fact that we have something that we're running that costs money and brings in money. This is just making it clear to everyone.
Well,
That's my point.
would you,
But the whole concept of a budget is so that you kind of predict ahead what you're going to do. So
Right.
we're predicting ahead what our expenses and revenues are, and we have to, this has to shoehorn into the budget we have now. And from fund balance, we'll cover the 142, so it fits in. But it's like, I mean, if we open the theater back in October, I mean, we would put this in November. So we're having to do this now. So, but this is necessary because in handling money and spending money, a town has a budget so that everybody knows, where we're going and what the prospects are. So this is part of the budget once we vote it on.
Let me see if I can restate it so that the public isn't as confused as I think you might be. This budget, I understand what the controller's doing, and I think it's the right way to go. We may not agree with all the numbers, we may say it should be, this one should be a little higher, this one should be a little lower, but this is a benchmark. And as we go
Right.
forward, we can look and say, how are we doing versus the benchmark? Oh my gosh, we're that far ahead of what we said we were gonna do on security? We better rethink how we're spending security money or find a way to make more revenue, okay? So this, I think, is very important. The issue that I'm trying to raise with the controller right now is, again, the budget is this big, the budget that was adopted in November. The fact that we're making changes here, the offset to this, so this can't get bigger. It can only be exactly what we said it was going to be in November. Things have to move within it. And what the controller is suggesting is that we take $142,441.92 to satisfy this budget plan, take it from fund balance. Now, I know in the past the controllers tried to explain to you how the fund balance got to be there and how it gets generated and created. But let me just, let's say that this number is right on the nose, that we need every penny of that $142,000 at the end of the year on December 31st. But say, for example, there is something in there, in the budget, $50,000 for the checkerboard inn. Let's say we never spend that $50,000 for the checkerboard inn. In theory, the fact that we didn't expend that cash moves into fund balance. So we do have a way, even if these, if this, we miss on one or two lines here, that we can replenish fund balance by things that didn't get spent, or we found ways to save money so we didn't have to spend all of that cash. So that's what you need to know about fund balance, budgeting, etc. I'm trying to keep it really simple. But on a go-forward basis, what we want to be able to do, and I think this is a good plan, I think everybody agrees with it, is we monitor how are we doing.
that was
As Mayor Beam used to say, how am I doing? I don't know how the theater's doing.
Very much.
Mayor Koch, yes.
I think they're trying to benchmark with
that was
accurate.
a good, that's a good excellent, that's a very good
I
explanation.
try to keep it simple.
That's a good explanation.
I have a technical question, Peter. You were talking about doing a monthly report. However, our reports from the theater are going to be weekly. They'll be
Well-
Friday through Thursday. So would you do a 4-weekly report?
No,
Or
I think you need to integrate a little bit.
will that get confusing?
What, from week to week?
No, I mean, a month is 4 weeks and 3 days.
That's when the rest of the departmental,
Do it as a departmental report.
Okay.
All right.
We're just gonna make sure that we
It offends my sense
keep
of
close
tidiness.
track of it. Yes.
But
I don't know, you're gonna make yourself crazy if you try to look at it on a weekly basis.
this
I'm
board,
crazy already.
Daniel,
That's as much as I am.
well, in fairness to your tidiness, this board, I know that you get overwhelmed with my emails, but I try to keep all of you, all four of you, including Peter, up to date, including Bob Quinn, on virtually everything that goes on here. So there's very little that you folks don't know about that doesn't go on a weekly basis. I try to keep you up to date. It's becoming a little bit more cumbersome because the theater is requiring more time, but that's what it takes, that's what I'll do. So you do get your weekly updates somehow, but you'll have your monthly departmental report submitted.
I think the monthly will give us a better snapshot. Weekly is it's just too constraining.
We have a motion on the floor?
Yes,
Let's,
call the question.
1 second.
Okay.
This is my motion. I'll respect the wishes of the board if you wanted to table till next meeting, or if you want to move forward.
That's not gonna work.
I think we
I'm
have.
just asking because someone mentioned they wanted a table. I'm showing
No.
respect.
Thank you, Jerry, but I think we've pretty much satisfied at least my concerns, so
Okay.
we can move ahead.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That being said, may we call the question?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much. You want to jump to the old business?
With the board's permission, unless there's a reason, we have the ambulance, the assessor, if there's anyone, please call it out, the building inspector, the comptroller. Peter, is there anything you want to say before I go through this?
Well, this was the major part of what I wanted to get
Okay, there
through.
is nothing else then?
for this.
The Conservation Commission, board, is there anything you want to add?
I didn't see the reports on that loss.
It's on mine. It's on mine.
Did you have Murray?
Let me deal,
Just one thing, if I may.
address
What
board.
happened to the tree club?
Yeah. The tree code.
Why don't you just?
Who's shouting out from the audience?
No, he was asked a question.
No, he was asked in relation to conservation.
Conservation.
Okay.
Still being worked on the board.
Okay, well, let's do this because the ward who's a member, this is a late night and it's not even late. The town committee, there's two members, vacancy on the, two members for the commission that are, vacancy came up. The Monroe Conservation Commission intends to submit a comment regarding the DGEIS. There is the Plant, Prune, and Preserve Public Places Program, which is in the process of being completed. The Conservation Commission here submitted a draft tree code amendment to the town board in February 2015 for consideration to discuss proposed amendments initiated by the town board. Consideration of a local ordinance to prevent indiscriminate damage or destruction of these natural resources, which in conjunction with the tree planting could reduce significant deforestation, which would further the Commission's goal of implementing a sustainable forest protection program. I'm going to add a comment here because, in all fairness, the tree code and the way we are neglecting our responsibilities for the water aquifers is something which, if we do not address, we're going to be paying a very dangerous and costly price in the future. I would ask the board to start looking at this, both the tree code as well as the danger of exploiting our aquifers on this side of 17, because it is something which seems to be, the county couldn't care less, the assemblyman couldn't care less, the state senator couldn't care less, nobody could care less what's going on this side of 17. As much as we are concerned about what's going on the other side of 17, issues like the tree code and issues like the sucking up of the water on this side of 17 is something which we're all going to have to start addressing. So that being said, I just wanted to address Mr. Brower's concern about where the tree code is.
Probably board is going to be a
Move
very
on, or do you
serious
want me to
issue.
continue?
All right.
Okay. We have a report from the dial bus. There were 1,034 people, 1,304 people keep your voices down, please. There was a reservation service transportation, total 1,304 people. Seniors transported 627, disabled transported 325. Disabled transported 946 riders. There were 2,372 riders, as well as 7,517 miles, revenue miles, that were generated this past month. Just as a reference, we're going to have to go into executive to discuss personnel for the hiring of 2 people and a couple of other issues as well. We have a refuse report which is on file. The Monroe Senior Center, there's wonderful things that go on here all the time, and this is on file as well. Gentlemen, if I'm moving to this, please let me know. We have the town of Monroe, which attaches a resubmission for the consideration of the proposed roads in accordance with the 284 of the New York State Highway Law. The last time this was proposed, there were some inconsistencies that Councilman McWaters had noted. I assume, Peter, that those inconsistencies have been adjusted. If not, could you correct me so that we can make a motion on this one or the other?
Yeah, there were elements of estimates that were wrong. So Bob told me that he corrected all of them.
Dennis?
Looks a lot better.
Looks a lot better.
Are we ready to move forward with
We
this
need to make a
thing?
motion on this. We need a motion to enter into an agreement with the Highway Superintendent Anthony Rizzo for a proposed contract, the 284 of the New York State Highway Law.
Yeah, that's
We need a motion for this. We need to adopt it.
you need to.
All right, I'll make the motion.
Second.
Call the question?
Aye.
Aye.
So the supervisor signs it, and then the highway superintendent signs it.
We'll need a motion to authorize the supervisor to sign the 284 New York State Highway Law.
So moved.
Need a second? Call the question?
Aye.
The highway superintendent has the authority to do that for himself. We have a request from Orange County, the IDA, the Orange County Funding Corporation. This is something which was a little unusual for the town board as well as for the public. This is with respect to a proposed project for Sherry Torah Incorporated and Yol Moshe Bais Rochelle of KJ. This was a request to use the Monroe Art and Civic Center Studio 6 on Wednesday, July 8th, 2015 at 34 Mill Point Parkway. What this is effectively, and if I get this correctly, and I spoke with the government, the Center for Government that the county had hired. They're based up in Rochester. The council for the IDA here in Orange is also based in Rochester, and we were discussing this. And they said that it is not unusual where parochial schools, private schools, use IDA as a source of raising money. It's good for the IDA, this is what I understand, because they make some money off it, and it's also good because of the guarantees that the parochial school is able to benefit from. There is no involvement in the town of Monroe by the villages, any of the villages. We are here only to hold the public hearing. That is the requirement that we have. We've been called, and they asked, and they have a July 8th date, which is set. I think many of you may have read the article in the Times Herald Record regarding it. It's pretty self-explanatory, other than the fact that the town does it. These are the properties, again, that run parallel along this side of 17, along Larkin Drive, and those properties, to the best of my recollection, from the Target all the way up to 208 are more or less owned either in whole or in part by these organizations. They have rights under our LUPA to be able to effect these requests, and we have no reason legally to be able to turn this down. So we need a motion for this, for the purpose of discussion. It's a motion to hold a public hearing on July 8, 2015, unless we want to table this for further
Yeah,
discussion.
I'll make the motion, and the motion is that we would provide the space for a public hearing to be conducted by IDA on this matter. It'll be Wednesday, July the 8th, at Studio 6, which is, the Cinema 6 upstairs.
I'm not sure. It's a Wednesday, July 8th. The other part of this is that,
No, we have a motion,
Second.
and we have a second.
I believe it was at 6:30, but I don't have.
There's no time
Says
on it.
two.
I believe it was at 6:30.
It's not on.
Fax file, it says 2 PM.
Wait till PM?
My question
That is my call.
is there a rental fee associated with
I
it?
asked them that, they said no.
Who said no?
I spoke with Harris Beach, the attorneys, and I spoke with them, and they said, no, there is no provision. I called the IDA, there is no provision, they do not give any legal fees, sorry, they do not give any sponsorship fees, no rental fees. This is our responsibility.
Wait.
Hold on, I thought they were renting Studio 6.
No, we are responsible as
All
a
right.
host community to provide
Space.
Provide space. I asked, they said no. If you want to hold off until we can get a formal letter, it's fine with me.
No, we've got a response already.
Whatever you want. This is just, we can do it now, we can do it in 2 weeks.
In the past, this public hearing has been asked of the town before, and it has been scheduled with the supervisor's office, 11 Stage Road, and that's where it was held. It's something that we're always asked if the IDA has to have a public hearing or something in Monroe, if they have to ask the town to provide a space. And like I said before, it's been held in the supervisor's office. It lasts, I've never seen it last more than 5 minutes. The bottom line of it all is, you can deny this, they'll go to another venue in the town. But like the councilman and the supervisor said, they don't pay a fee. They could hold it here if you don't want to, if you're worried about the space in TMAC. But this is something that's been done every year when the IDA has to have a hearing.
I quite frankly, and depends on what the board will like, this is something which maybe we should start televising. I know the IDA, has a lot of controversial decisions. And this way, the IDA would be held to the same standard that everybody else is. In other words, if you want to come in, you want to use our facility, we're going to wind up, whether it's for 5 minutes or 5 hours, we're going to wind up televising. It's going to be put on channel 222. And then we're going to invite the IDA to do what we do and make sure that your IDA proceedings are televised. And you know what? We'll be the host for them so that the public in all of Orange County and in the town of Monroe can see exactly what the IDA does with the residents of Orange County with their tax dollars. So I think this is a good idea, a good opportunity for the IDA to do what everyone else in this town is doing. That's hold public hearings that are televised, that the public has a chance to be able to see what goes on.
Question. I understand what you're saying, Harley, good idea. But they're asking for that venue.
They can hold it here, it doesn't much
They can
matter.
have it here.
It doesn't much matter.
I mean, what I'm saying is the TMAC going to be open at that time? Or we're going to have a special opening, pay people to be there?
No, it's open. It's open at 2:30 in the afternoon, 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
On a Wednesday.
On a Wednesday, it's open.
They don't get the popcorn.
You know what, if that's what it's gonna take for the public to get involved in what the IDA does with their money, you know what, that's a cheap price to pay.
No, it's a good idea to have it televised. I'm not saying it's not.
Yeah. It'll be the first time the IDA ever had their proceedings televised.
What's IDA?
What's the public hearing about?
Tax breaks are.
The IDA is the Industrial Development Agency. They're responsible for awarding money to
People who don't need it.
to to different, for different purposes. They do a wonderful job. Eddie Deanna is on it. You remember our Eddie Deanna, our former county executive? He's on it. So you'll have a chance to see the former county executive.
Bring the cameras up.
Oh, absolutely.
Mr. Supervisor.
Yes.
You might say also that, you know, our long-term intentions are to make Studio 6 available for events like this from organizations that do pay. So it'd be nice to, you know, break the ice. Let's get one group in there, and then maybe they can tell other people about it, and it becomes public knowledge that, gee, if you got an event you want to hold it in TVAC. They've got the cameras in there. You can end up with a video of your proceedings, and maybe we'll start making some money from the room.
And if we get 50 or 100 people that attend an IDA event, which was previously held for 5 or 10 minutes in a supervisor's office, without any idea by the public knowing what's going on, maybe this time we'll get 50 or 100 people. And by the way, maybe we'll get hungry for lunch, and we'll go and we'll
Open the concession stand.
open the concession stand, or they'll go have a meal.
I just like the idea of just opening up the cameras and shining some light on it.
If we do it, you know what, if we do it, and we do that, let everyone else do it. It's about time.
I hear a consensus building.
Mr. Supervisor.
Yes.
Do you have to ask them if they will allow you to take this?
I don't think there is a restriction in this. This
That's
is,
a public meeting.
we have a gentleman here who's videotaping us right now.
And
I'm sure that he could wind up videotaping and putting on Facebook 5 minutes after the event occurred. But George will be there, and we have the facilities to be able to deal with regardless.
Well, I would suggest
I
that
think it's about
tomorrow,
time.
I would suggest that you also, before it actually happens, check with our legal
Let 'em know.
advisor, answer that too.
Okay.
Just to be sure, just to be sure.
May I have a motion?
Yeah, we got the motion. We got the motion already. We're discussing.
Call the question. Okay?
Aye.
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 Thank you. I will notify Harris Beach of the intention to hold on July 8th at 2 o'clock on Wednesday, their funding, that it will be televised and broadcast, and I will check, or ask George to check, to see whether or not we can reroute that event to the other franchisees of Cablevision, so that the rest of the county can see their, for the first time, what an IPA event looks like.
Can I ask you one question? Can we also have a call made or a question asked of this group about the insurance? If they're gonna have a meeting at TMAC about the insurance, I know the building's insured, just
They should
look
have
into
their
the
own.
insurance that they should bring also.
Do you want that as a precipitating cost? for
No,
the
I
insurance
just
plan?
think it's something that we
Because
should
otherwise, we're
always...
going to wind up downstairs in the basement of the supervisor's office. No opinion.
I'm just asking, we should make sure about the insurance.
We provide
Just a
the insurance.
suggestion.
We provide the insurance.
I know we have insurance on the building.
We do.
That's
Sidewalks.
Next.
Next, we have for Neptune Drive, a replacement for the sidewalks. This is a board-approved replacement of a 240-foot sidewalk at Mercury Avenue at the cost of $12,990. The residents on Neptune Drive request a replacement repair of their sidewalk. Approximate length is 500 feet, starting at 131 Neptune. Request the board approve or disapprove this request and inform the highway accordingly of its decision. This is not funded. This is a requirement under our town law for developments that were not grandfathered, or were grandfathered in which the town is responsible for the repair or replacement. Am I stating this correctly?
Pretty much.
Okay.
Now, there's,
Yeah.
I think that you face a couple issues here with this. Like, the first one is, we don't have a line item anywhere in the budget that covers the sidewalks. And there is a code for that. There's a 5410 code for sidewalks in the comptroller's list of expense codes. So we need to create in DB, I think it's going to be in DB.
We can't do this anyway. I apologize.
Because
I don't know whether or not.
That has
we
to
should
go
have gone out
through
for
highway.
bid. We should have gone out for bid.
it's been done, this work's all been completed.
Did it go out for bid?
It went out for bid. the highway department put it out for bid. They awarded the bid. The issue that I have with this is that after they awarded the bid and the work was done, we were presented with an invoice from Morangi for $562 for a dumpster that was used to cart away the concrete that had been taken out from the sidewalk when they
I spoke with
took
Tony
it up,
today.
right? Now, so my only question was, well, why is the town paying for removing the concrete? And was that the way it was set up in the bid? Did all the other bidders say that they were going to have the town haul the concrete away? Or did they include hauling the concrete away in their bids? I would have
I'm assuming
thought.
we're not going to
I don't
resolve
know.
this right now. We don't have counsel here, and then there's a dispute about an outstanding balance to Morangi. So if we could we table this for the next board meeting, and so we can get an opinion from council?
Can we get a copy of the RFP
Yeah.
to see what was included?
You get a copy of the bids for sure.
Yeah.
Of the bid spec, yeah.
I don't know if they even did a real bid spec or not. You have to ask Bob what they did, what they put out. Because this wasn't run through my office.
It wasn't run through my office.
It was all handled by the highway department.
But I hope the difference between the bids is more
We're
than
tabling
the
this, is this correct?
at the very least.
Okay, table. Let's go on to where there's a request from Highway for a FEMA fund transfer. Gentlemen, this is okay, I have sent you photographs of this. Mr. Rizzo had sent me photographs. I asked some questions. Highway requested $12,600 be made available from Sandy FEMA funds for rental of material grinder for use of the town's compost facility. Effectively, there are some tree stumps and tree trunks and some other branches, large branches, debris. But this would take $12,600 for a one-day rental for the equipment to do this. This is from a company called Material Processors. The rental cost, I'm sorry, it's not for one day. It's for, with operator, $3,200 per day, plus the cost of fuel, approximately 2 to 3 days worth of work, and the fuel cost is approximately $1,000 per day. I have sent the four of you, as well as Mr. Martin, a picture of what is being requested. If you choose to move forward with this, please, before you do it, take a look at what you are approving, and then decide.
I just want to make one comment. I'm making an observation here. We just spoke about Neptune Drive, and the bill there was for $12,990, excluding the removal of concrete,
Yes.
for which there was no budget. And now we're being asked for another $12,600 to grind up some tree trunks that if we leave them there long enough, will just disintegrate. Doesn't look to me like there's anything to do but use that money to pay for sidewalks.
And you also had a request of, I believe you had a previous request to buy a chipper
Yes,
to do that,
Yes.
to do the chipping work.
from the FEMA.
Well, I don't know if the chipper was from the
I
FEMA.
think it was.
Yeah, if we wanted-
I think it was.
And I just saw today this fantastically beautiful chipper that the village of Harriman has going down the street when I was getting my coffee this
I
morning.
think chipper makes more sense than renting a large scale grinder.
To go ahead and maybe buy one, but do we have that much?
It sounds like this is going nowhere, so.
Well, let me just say one thing. If you have FEMA money, it doesn't mean you have to spend it. You should still spend it wisely. That's all I'm saying. I know there's FEMA money there. I understand what his point is.
Yeah.
But you have to spend the money wisely on the FEMA end too, because it's not something you should just spend I think, so freely on things that, as Dennis pointed out, you might not even need to do.
Yeah, the other thing, in that regard, Jerry, if he's got a list of things that, have some importance that they need down there, we could put them in a priority order and then use the FEMA money against that. Might make
Right.
more sense.
Right.
But I don't want to spend the FEMA money, but let's, maybe we can get more out of
In fairness,
12,600.
right, in fairness, I'd like to point out to you though, that there is a difference between the sideway issue and the FEMA issue, because the sideway issue is that you have been advised, I believe by council, that repair of the sidewalks is the town's responsibility.
Yes, he did.
So it was a non-budgeted item that came to us, that came to the board, that doesn't need to be funded. The work has been done. We do have to figure out how to handle that.
Well, the thing, as you mentioned earlier, Peter, we have to look into the whole issue. Morangi did the work, but we have to find out who and what line that payment should go to and how that came about. So can we look into that in the next 2 weeks?
Yes.
I'll ask too.
I think that's a good track.
All right.
It's been this long, I'm sure that they can wait another 2 weeks.
Right.
Gentlemen, that concludes the, there is no new business unless there's something which one of the board...
Yeah, I just want to bring up one point, if I may.
Is this regarding the fund transfer, or is this separate?
This is a separate issue, I'm sorry.
Okay, so this is under new business.
Actually, old business. Remember,
Okay.
at the last meeting, we had talked about returning funds to Quick Check for a light study.
Good.
And what had happened is that I had gotten a call from the people at Quick Check, and I did, believe it or not, check on a few factors. That they did do not just one traffic study, but for 3 years, they did one every 6 months. And they did it at different times so it wouldn't interfere with holiday traffic. It was pretty involved, and again, they could not come up with enough traffic at that light at Orchard and 17M. So I had asked us not to approve the returning of the funds that we had that we held in abeyance for a traffic light.
I believe it was $128,000.
That's
You're
correct.
releasing a letter of
So
credit.
yes, it was a release of a letter of credit, so I would like to go back on that.
We'll need a motion for releasing the sum of $128,000 in the form of, as a letter of credit issued from Quick Check to the town of Monroe.
It's just returning their money.
It is $128,800.
Okay, $128,800.
It's returning their money.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Call the
Which
question.
we discussed it that last week.
Call the question.
Aye.
Is there, I believe there's a document that requires the town supervisor's signature associated with
We
it.
need a motion
Is it?
to
No,
authorize.
no.
No?
They did send us a check.
They sent a check to pay for the outstanding balance. Now the board has approved this. So now I have the letter of credit. I will write a letter and return it. That's all.
It's that
We've
simple,
approved
and I
it.
can deposit the check.
Yes, I make copies of the
And
letter
we
of
can
credit and
pay,
letter.
we can pay WSP the,
Mhm. But yeah, there's no signatures, nothing. It's
Okay,
just
we made a
now I
motion to that
Okay.
a couple of months ago, or a month and a half, 2 months ago.
So
Ladies
I
and
just
gentlemen,
wanted to
I
say,
have a quick,
Rick, thank you very much
I
for
got
the
a
follow-up
quick
on
piece
that.
of leftover business. From, at our last meeting, I presented a list of expenditures and revenues from our boat rental operations at the Alex Smith Pavilion on Round Lake. I think you might have all seen that. Some of those expenditures would be necessary even if there were no swans there. The town has long owned Alex Smith Pavilion and provided for boat access, fishing, sitting, and sunset watching. A diligent revenue and expenditure statement would have to identify and separate out these expenditures. Refuge, sanitary, parking lot sealing, and striping storage. And on our list of expenditures, the insurance expenditure is obscure. The $6,387 may include charges for other town operations, possibly ownership of the lake, or weed treatment activities, ownership of the island. Insurance for the yak program is around $1,000. Boathouse operations might be closer to $1,000 than $6,000. I got an informal quote by phone from our insurance broker, Myers and Webb. I've asked town supervisors to get a more reliable written breakdown. The expenditures to purchase the swans, ducks, trikes, etc. come from our Parkland Capital Fund. Our controller advises that these capital expenditures should not be included in the operating budget. I requested a depreciation breakdown from our CPA in order to spread those capital expenditures over 10 years. Following the controller's advice, I should remove the depreciation charges from the annual budget. among one of the benefits here, the town provides summer jobs for local youth to work as lifeguards and staff, for which we paid $20,543 last year, 2014. And many municipalities have summer work programs for youth as a standalone social service program. This expenditure has a positive effect on the town and its residents. And then our Round Lake residents and our citizens who use the lake are probably aware that the town takes responsibility for weed mitigation and treatment of the lake. Our budget for 2015 provides for $28,000 for this expense. Because the town owns property on the lake and owns the island, these funds are paid from the town budget town-wide. It's not a special tax district just for residents around the lake. It's paid town-wide, $28,000. Studying expenditures and revenues is important, and any effort we take to reduce expenditures and to increase revenues are important. But we established this operation as a service to our residents, which makes life in Monroe a little bit more interesting and a bit more fun. We spend $306,000 annually on Smith Cove Park. We spend $18,300 annually on Mongeisha Park. So our expenses here are comparable. A diligent assessment may show we are providing our boathouse services at close to no cost to our general taxpayer. But every dollar we do expend is of great value to all our citizens. Anyway, that's an amendment to that budget that I passed out last 2 weeks ago. Thank you all.
I apologize for interrupting you. It was actually, it wasn't you. I was thinking about what the IDA was going to say when I informed them that they had to. So I found that to be funny.
A couple quick things.
Yeah, go ahead.
New business / old business. Let's see. Okay. The 7 Springs Road cleanup, which we approved at a previous meeting, is going to be done on Wednesday, weather permitting. It was supposed to be done last week, early in the week, but there was some weather and water issues that it wouldn't have made it that efficient, and it would have increased the tonnage charge with the weight of the water, so we decided to hold off till this coming Wednesday, weather permitting. And the other 2 roads will hopefully also be done shortly thereafter. I'd like to commend, and I'll get the name for you next meeting. There were some local volunteers who've done some nice cleanups in certain roads on the town, what they could handle without having the trucking ability of a garbage carting company. And I'd like to commend them for that. Also, Councilman Burke for getting involved and helping out, getting his hands dirty with the other citizens. Thank you, Dan. Yeah, well, okay, get the gloves dirty. The other thing is, there was a citizen who cleaned up with several of his friends and neighbors an area on the outskirts of town. They put it all in a big pile on the side of the road in a safe area, as he told me. And the garbage company was nice enough when I called them to go and pick it up free of charge, because it was a decent amount of stuff, but it wasn't overwhelming. So I'd just like to thank Morangi for doing that without any monetary payback for them. It was nice they just did that right away. Their service was excellent, and I appreciate it. Thank you. As well as the citizens who volunteered. The Wilderness Sewer Commission, we didn't do that report tonight because Harley went through them rather quickly. Dan and I were at a meeting earlier this evening with the commission. We had some issues with a hire that was made earlier in the year. We had some problems with it. The board here voted to hold off on payment on that. We put a little quote-unquote investigation of what was going on with it legally and all that. We're going to address that in executive session briefly because it's personnel. We don't have our attorney here tonight, but we will get to the bottom. Now, maybe the next 2 weeks we'll resolve that issue. And we might be looking at other avenues for our Wilderness citizens to be taking care of their sewer issues, maybe in a better, more efficient way. We'll see what that holds in the future. Also, as I mentioned before, the Trans-Pacific Partnership, which is a national government, federal government issue, but your local federal representatives, senators, 2 senators in the state of New York, Schumer and Gillibrand, and also your Congressman Maloney, I've called all of them and reminded them how I felt about it as a citizen and an informed person on it, and I hope that people realize in this audience that as working class people, this is another bad trade deal that's so complicated it takes a team of lawyers just to figure out how to look at this thing. But one of the things as a local government, the reason I bring it up, is the fact that they will have ability through international courts to actually punish monetarily local municipalities if they don't abide by some of these rules, which are, I think, unfair for the American economy and worker. So if you do get a chance to review anything in the paper about it or look online, all the local labor organizations that represent working people in the Hudson Valley, like the HV and ALF and everything, are dead set against it. And it's just going to be another, as they say, sucking sound as more jobs in America in the manufacturing industry disappear to other parts of the world at low wage and no benefits and no environmental controls. So please, at least try and inform yourself and see what you want to do about that as a citizen. And lastly, I just want to wish everyone, if they get a chance to go check out the theater, it's really nice. It's the floors and everything, the painting that was done really beautified it. When we first took it over, it was some disrepair and some vandalism. It really, really looks nice, and I hope you at least give it a chance and go and at least try it out, check it out. The prices are great. The food and the entrance fee, the ticket prices are good. We do get, as some citizens were concerned about, we're getting blockbuster movies. We're also getting some artsy movies and documentaries, which some people really enjoy, maybe not on as big a scale. But at least give it a chance. It's our movie theater, and hopefully it's a success. Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry.
Ladies and gentlemen, before we conclude, I just want to let you know, remember, if you're going to have a submission regarding the DGEIS scope review for public hearing, please have it in by June 22nd. That being said, we received an invitation from Gedalia Zegedin, the administrator for the Curious Joel, for the town board members to go and view the properties, the 507, the 164, and some of the issues. I sent him an email back, and I thanked him for that. I told him that I probably know more about this than anyone else does, and I would welcome the opportunity for Steve Newhouse, any of the assemblymen, or anyone to have the courtesy, the decency, to come down and see for themselves what they're talking about. It's real nice to go up, make speeches, get applause, but I can tell you right now that none of them, not one of them, has come into the town of Monroe, not one of them has come and spoken to any of the town board members, not once. And over 1 year since this annexation request has been submitted, none of them had the decency to be able to call us on the phone and say, what do we need to do to be able to make sure that the public doesn't stay frightened to death over what's going to happen to their future, the future of their children. So if Mr. Zegedin will wind up extending that invitation, not only to the town board members, but to Mr. Newhouse, the assemblyman, and everybody else that gets up there, tries to get an applause, and then walks away from the problem, I really would appreciate Mr. Zegedin. Ladies and gentlemen, that being said...
Arlie?
Yes. Good.
I have something that I just want to bring up to the board. The town hall, we're coming very, very close to the Polygon will be coming in and taking the documents out. And I asked the town board to please, let's move on the next steps so we can get back to town hall.
Yes.
And tonight, you were going to go to executive session.
We have executive for...
I would like to...
I'd like
You
to
have a personnel issue,
we have
right?
two issues in the first one.
And I'd like to, could I add,
Washman and the other one for...
could I add purchase of property, please?
Purchase of property is fine, yes.
Thank you.
Okay, one thing I'd like to mention with the scoping session, or the session over the KJ the other night, I apologize for not being there. I take it very seriously. Unfortunately, we have death in the family, so I couldn't make it, but I hope you know I took it seriously, and I'll be reading all the transcripts and everything. Thank you.
Can I ask you a question, Mr. McCarthy?
Ladies and gentlemen, that being said, we need a motion to adjourn to...
I'll make that motion.
To executive discussion, two issues for personnel, as well as one for purchase of real
And
estate.
one for the movement issue, personnel.
Oh, we'll do, yeah, personnel.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Call the question.
Aye.
Please don't stand adjourned.